Awesome. I know I'm in a high pressure situation here. There's a lot of expectations I have both for myself, but I'm sure you all have expectations as well, seeing as I am standing between you and lunch, which is probably the most important event of the day that everyone's thinking about. But I'm super excited to be here. I'm super thankful for this opportunity. This is the Cyber-Hobbit. There and back again in CTI. I chose it because I figured most everyone here is probably fairly nerdy like myself. And it seems like a good story, but also it seems like a good way for me to tell my story. As a kid, I remember my grandfather lived with my family, and every night he'd tell us the story of the Hobbit. And it was amazing, it was wonderful, it was well embellished and fantastic. It wasn't very accurate to the book most of the nights, but somehow he told us the story of the Hobbit every single night in a different adventure of Mr. Bilbo Baggins. And I relate to Mr. Baggins in this case, and that's what my goal is here for you, is to understand how my journey into cyber threat intelligence is similar to Bilbo Baggins. We're very similar disregarding the height. We have a lot in common, and we both ended up slaying a dragon. So a little bit about myself. My name is Chandler McClellan. I'm a student at Utah State University. So super privileged to have the opportunity to be out here today with you. Ooh, I gotta have to juggle two of these. I'm studying information systems cybersecurity and a second degree in data analytics, which kind of gives me an analytical approach to the work that I do in cyber threat intelligence. It helps me approach the problem sets that I'm looking at a little bit differently than someone that had a more traditional degree. I love motorcycles. That's kind of my biggest personality trait for most of the people that know me, and I'm a bit of a nerd if it wasn't given away. Finally, anticipatory intelligence is super unique. It helped shape my background a lot getting into this field. Anticipatory intelligence at Utah State University, it's the lab school for the nation's anticipatory intelligence program. In 2019, the National Intelligence strategy document was put forth, and in the second directorate, there was a call for a need for anticipatory intelligence. And in that context, USU answered the call, providing a multidisciplinary approach to solving this problem of anticipating what threats we face and how we need to go about understanding the different contexts, geopolitical backgrounds, tensions, everything that goes into the world that we have today. And it helps us learn and understand how to design more resilient systems. So beyond that, I came into the field of cyber threat intelligence through my connection. We'll start down with Scott Roberts. He was a man who came into my life almost a year ago to date, funny enough. And it changed everything for me. He's an adjunct professor at the university. He volunteers with our cybersecurity club. He's beyond a mentor and a professor. For the better part of the last year, I had the opportunity to be his coworker. So his insights really shaped my journey, as well as our opportunity to work at this small startup called Interpris. If you read my job title, Cyber Threat Intelligence Research Engineer Intern, I didn't count the words, but I knew it was more than 2 or 3, and that seemed a little abnormal. But when Scott told me about that job, he said, we're going to wear a lot of different hats in this company. We're a small 2-man team, and you're going to have to learn how to stretch and grow and go on this great journey, go on this adventure. So that's kind of introductions taken care of on my side. And now I'd like to figure out who you are. I'd like to get introduced to you. This is my first SANS CTI Summit, so I haven't really met anyone here, and I don't really know what the room is like. But we're just going to do this super easy, just a quick raise your hand kind of poll to fill out the room and understand who y'all are. I know I'm an undergraduate student. That's kind of weird to be here in this context. Most of you are professionals. But let's start with an easy one. Raise your hand if this is your first SANS Cyber Threat Intelligence Summit. This is amazing. These are my people. Look around. Everyone has their hand in the air. I guess everyone else is hanging out over there. All right. So next easy question. Raise your hand if you have less than 5 years experience in cyber threat intelligence. Pretty much everyone besides Scott once again. The odd man out. That's awesome. We can just fly through these questions. I thought we'd have a little bit more of a mixed crowd here. Anybody here have a degree in cybersecurity or working on one related? We have a few hands. Awesome. Who here left school or got into the workforce trying to get into cyber threat intelligence? Was there anyone that was like, I know what I want to do? We have one. All right. I'm sensing a little bit of a polarization here, and it's quite interesting. But for the majority of us, we all seem to be new to CTI and trying to figure out what we're doing here and how we can go forward with that. So last night when I was updating slides and making sure everything was beautiful and good to go, I pulled the statistic down. And just on LinkedIn in the United States, there's currently 777 results for just cyber threat intelligence in the United States. That is a lot of jobs, a lot of companies out there actively seeking cyber threat intelligence talent. And with that opportunity, we have being new to CTI, we have opportunity to grow our own talents and become qualified so we can fill these jobs. This thing just stopped working. Frustrating. My apologies for managing 2 laptops and 2 clickers. I'm not right brain, left brain, but cyber threat intelligence is a super emergent field. We have the opportunity to, as many of the people have been saying in the morning track, we have the opportunity to break out, go over the basics. It's ever evolving, and we can get into it really at any time. So with that, what are the goals of this presentation? Honestly, the story of Hobbit. If you do not come away from this presentation with a good idea of the Hobbit and poor Bilbo Baggins' journey, I will have failed greatly because I heavily themed this talk and I'm too far into it to change that now. Secondly, my personal experience, which is hopefully something that will speak to most of you here, with many of us here being new to cyber threat intelligence, just getting our feet wet, trying to perhaps follow in the footsteps of someone else. Hopefully through my personal experience and as I relate it to Bilbo's journey, we'll understand what that means for us and how we can grow. And then finally, how to support new talent. This is something targeted to those hopefully in the other track that will watch this talk later. Understand how they can connect with us, how they can help us when it's hard, how they can support us where we need to grow. So the Shire, we're going to set the stage for our journey for the Hobbit. The Shire is a beautiful place, very, very peaceful. And in the Shire, in Bag End, Bilbo lived a very predictable life. He was well structured, he had everything routine, and he really didn't have anything too crazy or hectic going on. And he was content with that, he loved it. If you're not aware what a Hobbit is, I guess we'll touch on the basics. They're about yay high, maybe? Not quite my height, but close. And they have hairy feet, and they're well-mannered and content, and they love to eat food. Probably like most of us here thinking about lunch. They are probably on their 2nd or 3rd lunch by this time. They'd be outraged at a conference with only 1 lunch. But Bilbo, just to read from Tolkien, he said, like most hobbits, Bilbo is fond of the comforts of home and hearth. He loves good and simple food in abundance, and he loves his pipe and well-furnished hobbit hole. So Bilbo was truly content being here in the Shire. Everything was at peace. He was not an adventurous type. He was not a man or a hobbit looking for a journey. Rather, he had heard of the great adventures, was aware of them, and just was kind of in his own world. That is like my life circa 370 days ago, plus or minus. I was just a college student. I was content in my academic pursuits and my daily routine. Life was structured. Life was pretty well organized. I was just going to do school and work my way through it. And I knew with a clear understanding that was my life. There wasn't any crazy adventure knocking at my door. And in my comfort zone, I had a few interests, probably like most of the geeks in here. I started listening to Darknet Diaries. I think that's the gateway drug to cyber threat intelligence. I started collecting more and more books. I read The Cuckoo's Egg. I read Sandworm. I started getting into all these books, and they started piling up, and then I moved them off my nightstand, and they just started piling higher than my nightstand, and now I have 2 nightstands, one of books, and it's good. It started becoming this obsession that grew more and more, learning about the world of cyber threat intelligence, really getting into the history without actually being part of it, right? It still seemed like a different reality. It seemed like something far away from me. But I loved it. I loved getting into LinkedIn. That became my cybersecurity social media. I'd watch about events. I'd read about different 0 days that were dropping, especially in 2023. What a great year to watch the world blow up when there was a new 0 day. There's more 0 days in 2023 than hobbits have meals and snacks in a day. So it was super interesting. I loved watching it. I loved following a lot of the thought leaders here in cyber threat intelligence, a lot of the people that you're interacting with here at this conference, and kind of living vicariously through their experience as they were able to report on things that they were seeing, report on their different organizations and the work they were doing. And like Bilbo, in a way, I could see the sense of adventure, but it was not a part of my life. I couldn't fathom myself taking a part of that. More it was, oh, maybe one day I'll join a company, be in a situation where I could see myself taking part in that. So continue on with beloved Bilbo's story. We have Gandalf. Now, Gandalf came in, and we could call it an intervention, but essentially he hosted a very unexpected party for poor Mr. Bilbo. Completely turned his whole world upside down and began this great journey for Bilbo. With Gandalf's arrival in the dwarves, there's a great commotion that came into Bilbo's life. He suddenly found himself surrounded in the midst of this close, tight-knit group and community, and they were crazy, and there was all these things going on. Bilbo didn't quite understand what was going on, but he was doing his best to try and be a part of it, try to be an accommodating host. And they were speaking of all these different things that he didn't understand, but he could get a sense that they had a purpose, that they were united in a purpose and a goal. And as Bilbo listened to them, he grew more and more interested in this journey that they were on, that little did he know he was going to get roped into. Gandalf became the mentor figure for Bilbo, and really, he didn't kick him out the door, but he opened the door, opened his eyes to this journey, and helped set him on the path. Without Gandalf's intervention, Bilbo would have never left the Shire. He would have never been able to kind of venture out into the world. And Gandalf did this by not only providing the opportunity for Bilbo as a mentor, but also providing the encouragement to do it, the initial seedlings of belief that helped push Bilbo along. This is my personal mentor, Gandalf the Grey. He's a very wise wizard. If you're not familiar, he's amazing. He's not actually my mentor. Rather, my mentor is a man who's seen his fair share of wars like Gandalf. He always helps a friend in need and apparently makes the best ramen in Middle-earth. If you have met him, it is Scott Roberts. This is the best Photoshop that I could possibly pull off. It's very convincing, other than the hair, but let alone Scott Roberts is the wise wizard who was my mentor, who helped kick me out the door, right? Get me on this journey. I really should have photoshopped an expo marker right in place of that staff for the number of times I've seen him draw a diagram on the board and walk me through something. But as a mentor, Scott shaped my thought. He taught me how to think like an analyst. He walked me through the classics, right? The pyramid of pain, or the diamond model, or the cyber kill chain, right? Always with a little expo marker in hand, trusty, going through, explaining how things worked. And it had a profound impact on me. Further along through our relationship, he also told me how to multiply work efforts through automation, building tools that assist in your workflow. He seemed to have all the answers of a wise wizard every time I turned to him, which was most every day, feeling inadequate in my journey, feeling like I was in over my head. Yeah, he's amazing. He is truly a wizard of automation. If you do have time, go steal some of his Apple routines or his shortcuts, anything like that. If we took away his phone, I think we might need to replace it with 3 full-time assistants just to get the work done that he does. So he's a true wizard. He is a true mentor, and I see it in the way that he mentors people outside of myself. He hasn't just helped me within his capacity at the university. He also has helped many students going through their resumes or giving them career advice and life advice. So it's just one of the many wizarding hats that mentors wear in life. Oh, perfect. I can send you a slide if you want a picture of yourself photoshopped. So moving on to Bilbo's stories, we continue to progress through the correlation here. Bilbo faced a lot of unknown challenges in his time. He faced a lot of different obstacles. If after leaving the Shire and traveling on with this group and not really being sure if he'd ever return to the comforts of his home, Bilbo got into a situation with some trolls. I'll give you the speedy version of the story, but essentially they were curious. They saw fire. They kind of sent Bilbo on ahead to check it out, figure out what's going on. And as Bilbo approached, he saw that there are these three trolls sitting around a fire and talking. And Bilbo, instead of just kind of taking that information and going back to the rest of the party and being like, oh, I figured out what it is. It's probably not a situation we get into. He decided, I'm going to reach into one of these trolls' pockets and pick their pocket so I can bring back something to prove my worth, prove my value to this group, prove that I'm not just this person they're dragging along and nobody really knows why, besides the wise wizard said he should be here. He's cool, right? Let him in. And Bilbo does that. He gets caught picking their pockets, and then one by one, the dwarves start to show up and try and find their friends, find the other dwarves, and they all get stuffed in sacks. And it's not looking like it's going to end well for them until, long story short, the mentor figure Gandalf comes along and bails them out. So that's the first little challenge that you kind of encounter in the book. We're going to just keep hopping through the story of the Hobbit here as we make connections. The goblins. This was another situation where after Gandalf and the dwarves and Bilbo found themselves in the goblins' cave, and after the goblin, not king, the great goblin died. Sorry, I had to refresh my memory here. I only listened to the audiobook, so it's all a little fuzzy, but the plane ride was good. I just put it on double speed. This is my first time through the story of the Hobbit as well. After the goblins, after they encountered the goblins, they were all trying to escape, and in that fight, Bilbo was lost. He was lost. He was separated from his party because the dwarves were in charge of quite physically carrying him, right? Carrying his dead weight on the team. And in the commotion, Bilbo got lost when there was an emergency that he could not carry his own weight. And then for the final quick little parallel before we connect everything together, shortly after that time, Bilbo's lost in the dark. He doesn't know where he is. He's fumbling around trying to figure out his situation. He fortunately finds the ring, which is of great importance, but not to this analogy. And he finds his way down to the edge of the water where he encounters Gollum. And Gollum sits there and talks with our poor hobbit. And he understands quickly that he is in a situation where he's in over his head. He may possibly die. And he goes through the phases of going through the riddles. So there's a bunch of different little sequence of interactions where poor Bilbo is separated and doesn't know what he's doing and is in situations of danger or puts his friends in danger. So connecting that back to myself and cyber threat intelligence, excuse me, my throat. I think this is nerves. I'm not really sure, but it does not taste great. So students pursuing cyber threat intelligence or myself, we can often encounter some of these unforeseen challenges when we're embarking on our journey. I've not seen my fair share of trolls, just dragons and other things like that. But trolls and goblins and little golems in the cave, they're resembling like the different rapid technologies that changes, or the evolving threat landscape, or all these demanding situations that demand a interdisciplinary approach to overcoming these challenges and obstacles. For the trolls, Bilbo got there, and rather than just doing the task that he should have, he kind of bit off more than he could chew. I know that personally, I've been in situations in cyber threat intelligence where I kind of get a little confidence, a little air in my head, and I go, you know what, I can do this project that's bigger than myself, right? This will be a good like small stretch goal. I can do this. And Scott's looking at me. He's like, yeah, you'll learn that you probably can, maybe if you're lucky. But I'm not quite as lucky as Bilbo was. And Gandalf comes in the end. Scott comes in the end to save you, right? You can get into a situation where your overconfidence causes you to leave your team kind of hanging out to dry. With the goblins, quite literally, he was a sandbag, right? Bilbo was dead weight to his team. And in the commotion, he got lost in a situation where there's something super demanding, a project or a goal that you're working on. If you're not prepared to kind of take your own weight to carry and to fend for yourself, there's no one that can, take care of everything that they need to with the whole team and also be watching out for you at all times. So you can get lost in the commotion. Same thing with Gollum, but a little bit differently. This is one of the first turning points that we see in Bilbo's story, as well as kind of in your own story. When you're really feeling lost in the dark, you finally given up hope. You don't know if you're going to be able to make it out of this, and this great challenge seems impossible. Bilbo in the riddles is able to lean on to some of his prior experience, right? He loved riddles, he had a keen mind, and he was able to take past talents, past strengths, past skills that he had, and learned to apply them in a new way that helped him get out of that situation with Gollum. Same for us. We're able to, in those moments where we feel like we have nothing left to build on, we can take the little things that we do have, think about them in new ways, and analytically apply them to overcome our challenges and obstacles. All right, back to Bilbo. Less about me. Bilbo played a lot of different roles throughout the story of The Hobbit. He always felt like he was trying to define himself or be defined by the environment that he was in. But he wasn't ever in the story some overpowered character. If you think about the Mirkwood, after they got lost chasing the elves in the forest, and they were to the point where all of his friends were tied up in the little bundles up in the trees, right? Bilbo was not the character that ran in there with a sword like a great hero and was able to cut away all the spiders, save all his friends, everything was all merry. He never did that. Rather, he did his part to contribute to the team. He was able to free his friends from their cocoons and one after another help the team get back on track because he did his small bit. Same thing with Smaug later in the book. As you think about Bilbo, as the dwarves are on top of the lonely mountain and they're trying to figure out how are we ever going to make it inside of here. We're about to give up hope. We're about to turn back. Bilbo did his small part to understand that, hey, we are here at the right time. We don't quite understand it yet, but we're following the precedent of well, not the precedent, but the leadership, the advice of Gandalf. We'll be able to figure this out with that optimism. So in all these situations, Bilbo did his part to be part of the bigger picture, to contribute in the space that he could. For us, that's contributing to a team in cyber threat intelligence. We're not going to go to our first company, our first job, our first gig, and suddenly be like, we are the head of cyber threat intelligence. We can do it all. We've seen it all. I listened to a podcast. I've got this, right? Rather, we need to understand the roles of teamwork and collaboration. Understand that we still have value add to our team no matter where we are. We are not brought in just to be there, to sit in the room, crack a few jokes, tell some stories about hobbits. Rather, we are here because we can contribute to the team as long as we remember to rely on our own talents, but also look to the leadership, look to the precedent that's set before us. Being united in purpose with our team, as Bilbo became united in purpose with the party, it really led to their success. You can't be working towards your own goals. Rather, follow those who are going before you. Being the burglar. So as Bilbo was creeping down inside of the Lonely Mountain after he said goodbye to his friends, after coming all this long way, overcoming all the challenges and obstacles, there was a moment in the book where Bilbo was struck with fear. Bilbo got a feeling that he was an outsider. He got a feeling like he did not belong. He got the feeling that Gandalf made a mistake and he was not the burglar that was going to sneak in and steal from Smaug, right? Thinking of his situation, he was surrounded by formidable and talented warriors who have a long connection and bond that he doesn't share with them. He was surrounded by essentially a band of brothers. And in that moment, Bilbo thought of turning back. But what changed for him, what changed at that point in the story, is Bilbo started to realize he is growing through this journey. He'd come a long way from the Shire. He'd grown a lot along the journey. And he had a purpose, and the people that were supporting him believed in him more than he could see that same belief in himself. And Bilbo went on to steal from Smaug and return to his friends, and it was fine. For us, this feels like imposter syndrome, right? That moment where you're struck, where you're gripped with fear, where you feel frozen, like paralysis analysis, like, am I going to be able to do this journey? Am I going to be able to accomplish the goal that I set forth here? Everyone is counting on me in this moment, but I feel so alone. You feel like even though you are interacting with this community, you've started to touch bases with a lot of the people in cyber threat intelligence, you know you're not a formidable warrior, right? You don't have the crazy talents, you don't have the war stories, you don't have the experience that a lot of these people have. And it's very daunting to be in that situation and experience those feelings of self-doubt and incompetence. And it's isolatory. It's hard to deal with. But overcoming is important. You overcome it like in a professional context through networking, right? Connecting with your friends, remembering that bond that you share with them, continually learning and continual reflection on the growth that you've had, the challenges that you've faced and what you've learned from them. that peer support network and remembering to apply this knowledge is how you kind of overcome this imposter syndrome. It's how Bilbo reminded himself that he was the burglar and he could do this impossible, formidable task that was set before him. It's powerful. It's powerful. And just as Bilbo sat there, he remembered the words of Gandalf, right? He remembered the inspiration that it caused him. For me, imposter syndrome, sometimes I just remember some of the praise, some of the dictates that Scott's given me, and it feels better than any grade I've ever gotten in a class in university. I know that. I know that mentors can have that encouragement and have that lift in your life that really is better than any other feeling. Moving on through the story is the return to the Shire. After Smaug is defeated, after Bilbo does his part to help understand the vulnerability of Smaug and the lake people take it away, they travel back. Bilbo and Gandalf set their sights on the Shire and they head home. And it's a long journey. They stop by Rivendell. They visit friends they made along the way. They go and pick up the gold they left behind from defeating the trolls, right? They're starting to reap the rewards and see the benefit of this long journey that they've come on. And Bilbo, in this, he has a lot of time to reflect as he's headed home from this journey. And he understands that he has come a long, long way from home, both physically in the short time, just a year in Bilbo's case, same as mine, but he can look back at how far he has come and kind of take that as motivation and understand that it was a lot of growth. But it took trust for him to get out that door. And he starts to understand that principle. That it would never have been possible for Bilbo had he not been willing to trust in others and put his confidence in himself. For us, for individuals who are interested in pursuing cyber threat intelligence, this is about reflecting upon our growth and transformation, right? We'd all love that magical overnight growth where suddenly everything is great. We've learned everything, we've mastered everything, we just wake up and we know it. But just like Bilbo, it is a long process that it involves us advancing through entry-level positions into more advanced positions. It involves studying, remembering to take the time to develop your talents, to reflect on your insights, to get the help of others, and most importantly, to find that growth outside of your comfort zone, to push yourself, to accept challenges, and to really work on that growth. There and back again, this is the time to Bilbo's life when he writes down the memories, right? He writes down the great tale that is the Hobbit, that is the story of the book that we read. And for me, for reading the story and how important it is to me, I understand that the Shire, it's always been the Shire, right? The Shire was the same place he returned to. Sure, he came home and everyone was, selling his house, selling his belongings, and it was kind of a little bit interesting, a little bit of a crazy situation for him to return to. But at the same time, Bilbo was not the same Hobbit that he was when he left. He was able to deal with all the commotion pretty easily because he'd been through some bigger challenges and he had the skills and had developed the capacity to deal with it. By doing this, his knowledge and experiences, they lived on past his time. He documented his great journey in the book, and he read it to his nephew Frodo, right? Shaped another great story that we're going to get into shortly after this as I recount the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy. Or maybe not, we only have a few minutes, but for us, the end is the beginning, right? The return to the Shire, the return to understanding where we were, the framing of our mind. We begin to understand that even though our surroundings around us don't change, the journey is what's changed us as we progress through cyber threat intelligence. We are able to grow. Like Mr. Baggins, it's often our perspective that has changed in those situations. We didn't grow taller, we didn't grow wiser, we didn't have any magical gifts or abilities that we didn't leave home with. Rather, we developed our strengths that we already had and became our own individual in the cyber threat intelligence industry, bringing our own perspectives and strengths to the team and to the group. For me, like Bilbo was able to record this journey, it's important to capture the adventure that we have in cyber threat intelligence and CTI. Capture the sense of wonder, capture the adventure, capture the growth that you have on these experiences. That way you're able to look back and understand how far you've come. but you're also able to take those experiences, that knowledge that you've gained, and share it with others. One day, we may all have the opportunity to be impressionable on someone else, bring someone else new into cyber threat intelligence. There's a large demand for talent in this community, and the folks sitting in this room will not fill, let alone the jobs we have today, but the jobs we're going to have in the future, the demand that we have out there. So we need to be conscious about bringing it forward and helping other people find their way into cyber threat intelligence. Takeaways for this talk, whether you're new to CTI or whether you've been here for a very, 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 very long time, Mr. Graybeard Gandalf. The key takeaways for us are just remember to seek the guidance that you need, right? There are resources out there. This community is great. It is uplifting. There are people here to help you, and just go talk to them. They are very, very happy to help. I don't think there's a better professional community that I've interacted with or heard of as far as supporting others. Remember to get that hands-on experience, put yourself out there, right? Bilbo would have never had the opportunity to grow had he not walked out that door, had he not met the trolls, gone through his whole story. And also remember to apply the knowledge that you learned along the way, right? It's so important for Bilbo, and it's so important for us. So with that, that's the Cyber-Hobbit there and back again in cyber threat intelligence. I'm very thankful for SANS for giving me this opportunity, right? This step in my journey in cyber threat intelligence. I'm thankful for the support of my friends who've come halfway across the country, or I guess the whole way across the country, to be here. I'm grateful for the support of my mentor. And mostly I'm grateful for the opportunity that we have all together here to connect, to be part of this community and hopefully grow and help each other. So that is my presentation. I'll open it to questions if we have a few minutes, but that is.
What a great presentation. I am smiling. That was so awesome. And I feel the Hobbit love. So I hope you all do too. Nicole kicking us off with a question online. What's something you wish you knew when you started down this path on your journey? It's a tough one.
I wish I knew that becoming a Gandalf, right, becoming a wizard was not as easy as it seemed. I felt inspired and I felt like, oh, real quick, I'll be right there. But very quickly, I realized I was just another hobbit, and I had a lot of growth and a lot of journey ahead of me before I'd make my career work. So.
And I'll say that we all have a lot of journey ahead of us, right? There's a question from a Scott J. Roberts who's sitting in the room. So I'm going to make him just actually like say this and not type it in Slack.
Can't dodge anything tonight. What about being a mentor? I know this is something, even early in your career, there can be a lot of benefit for doing that. What's your experience been that way? And how do you think that's been beneficial to you?
Personally, being a mentor? I think it's critical, not just because of the influence or the ability you have to impact those around you and share insights, pass along insights, but when you think about helping others, you understand what you're doing to a greater depth and greater context. If somebody is coming to me asking for help or advice in a certain category, you come to realize that same thing you may have been struggling with to a better level. It's really hard to understand without a specific example, but personally, if somebody comes to me for advice about how to approach an interview, right, something they're super nervous about, I can reflect upon the information that was shared with me in approaching internships and in approaching interviews, and then you kind of pass that forward. But in doing that and helping somebody else, you build the self-confidence that you know for yourself what it means and what you're able to do.
Excellent. Well, you're probably going to get asked for a mentorship on talks and how to give them so brilliantly. Doing a wonderful job. Thanks so much, Chandler.
Thank you.